All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down the science that can help you run better, faster, and, maybe most importantly, run for life, and leave that fear of injury in the dust.
So, let's kick things off with a number that pretty much stops every runner in their tracks. Up to half of all runners get injured every single year. That's a crazy number when you think about it, especially for something that's supposed to be so good for us.
So, that brings up a really big question, right? And today, by digging into the actual science of running, we can finally get a handle on the forces at play and learn how to work with our bodies instead of against them.
And look, the stakes here are super high because the benefits of running are just incredible. We're talking about preventing major diseases, getting a powerful stress-relieving mood boost, which makes that huge injury rate, well, it's a huge paradox.
So where exactly does it hurt? Well, the data is pretty darn clear on this one. The injuries are overwhelmingly in the lower body. Yeah, the knee is the #1 culprit, clocking in at 28%. And right on its heels, the ankle and foot. This pattern right here, this is our first big clue.
Okay, so the first step to running without getting hurt, it's not about rushing out to buy the latest fancy shoes or totally overhauling your form. It's actually about understanding the basic physics of how your body, works as a running machine.
Every single time your foot hits the ground hits back. It's just simple physics. That force is called the ground reaction force. You'll see it called GRF, and your body has to soak that up thousands and thousands of times on every single run. You know, our bodies are actually brilliant machines for managing this force. It all happens in this repeating cycle, right? You have the initial contact, that's when your foot first hits the ground, then mid-stance where that GRF is at its absolute max, then you push off at the toe off, and finally swing that leg forward for the next step. That's the whole dance, right there.
Okay, so now that we know a little bit about the science, let's use it to bust a huge, and I mean huge, myth in running. I bet you've heard it a million times. Whatever you do, don't land on your heel. Well, the science, it tells a very different story.
So here's the deal. Neither a heel strike nor a forefoot strike is better. They just move that ground reaction force to different spots. If you're a rear foot striker, you're loading up your shin more. If you're a forefoot striker, you're putting more load on your calf and Achilles. See, it's a trade-off. It's not about one being good and one being bad. There's no magic bullet here.
All right, so understanding the forces. That's part one. Now for part two, building a body that's actually strong enough to handle them. And this is where we step out of the physics lab and head into the gym.
You know, there's this really common idea out there that to get stronger for running, you should be lifting light weights for tons of reps. And it kind of makes sense, right? You run for a long time, so you should lift for a long time. But what if that logic is totally wrong?
Well, it turns out it is. The research has just completely blown this idea out of the water. For us runners, all the evidence, I mean all of it, points in one single direction: heavy resistance training. Lifting heavy is what builds a body that's truly ready to run.
So why lift heavy? Well, it makes your body way better at handling all that stress we talked about. It even makes your tendons stiffer, kind of like a pogo stick, which gives you more energy return. The evidence is just so clear. It works. And get this, a simple, heavy program just twice a week can be an absolute game changer.
Okay, so let's say you get the forces, you're hitting the weights and building strength. You can still get injured if you ignore the single biggest risk factor out there. And the crazy thing is, it's the one thing you have total control over, and that is training error.
Look, here's the bottom line. Most running injuries happen for one simple reason. The breakdown of your body's tissue starts happening faster than your body can repair them. You push too hard, too soon, and eventually something's gotta give.
And we can actually measure this stress. There's a really useful concept called a training load. It's a simple idea, but it's super powerful. The total stress on your body is basically just a mix of how long you run, that's your volume, and how hard you run, that's your intensity.
And the best part is, managing this load is actually pretty straightforward. First, track your volume. You can use time or distance, whatever works for you. Second, monitor your intensity. A simple 1 to 10 scale of how hard it felt is perfect. But the absolute key, the most important part, increase that total load slowly. No sudden jumps from one week to the next. Okay, let's put this all together. Let's see how this all builds into a really simple 3-part plan. And this isn't some super rigid schedule you have to follow to the letter. Think of it more like a set of principles, a guide to help you run healthy for life. All right, principle number 1, understand your machine. You gotta know the basics of that ground reaction force and how your unique foot strike sends that force up through your body. That knowledge, that's your foundation. Everything builds on that. Principle number 2, build a resilient body. Seriously, do not be afraid to lift heavy things. That consistent, heavy strength program, it's probably the single best investment you can make for a long, happy running life.
And finally, principle number 3, train smarter. You need to be the boss of your training load. Keep an eye on your volume and intensity, respect your recovery days, and build that fitness up nice and steady.
You see, when you combine these principles, something really cool happens. You stop being the kind of runner who just crosses their fingers and hopes they don't get hurt, and you become an informed runner, someone who is actively, purposefully building a body and a plan for success. It's all about empowerment.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that you now have the tools. You have the knowledge to completely rewrite your running story. It doesn't have to be that same old cycle of getting fit, getting injured, getting frustrated. So the only real question left is, what's the one small change you're going to make this week to start running smarter?